people talk about there's a there's a saying that says, God's game is golf, and that is true. I love golf. um, but do you know why? Do you know why golf? Um, because because you don't have to play against other people. You don't have to make other people's winners and losers in golf. You can play and just play for your own benefit. But here's the good thing about it. If you're doing if you're doing good at golf, they call that being even, right? You're on par. You're even. Instead of being parched, you're just on par. And things are even. And that's about equality. Instead of the false god Thor with its brain manipulation power, authority. You know? It ends with the letter Y. Why? Author it. Why? Authority. Author it. Why? And it's actually authority. Like uh, what's that show? South Park. Authority. You know, people that put on a tie, they're stiff-necked, right? Stiff-necked deceivers with their ties on. Brainwashing deceivers, people in business suits proclaiming to be, doing God's work, um, and making the experience of living the cost of living instead of the gift of living. You know, think about that. Don't you think it's supposed to be the gift of living, not the test of living, not the cost of living? Why would you create a family? People say, well, God created people because he loves people. Really? And then in the next breath, they'll say, well, God created people so that they would glorify him. Like he's some sort of narcissist. Hey, give me a little better credit than that. I like praise like everybody, but I don't need you to sit there and worship me. It's a bad word anyways. Worship. WOR, war. Have you ever heard of war? You know what war is? It's a bad thing. Worship. White shirts and ties. The Missionary Training Center for Mormons and white shirts and ties. The NTC and the MTC. So the MTC is the Mormon Training Center, Missionary Training Center, and the NTC is the Navy Training Center. And they both wear white shirts and ties, and it's both about worship. And then the Missionaries at the Missionary Training Center. Missionary Training Center, Mission Aries. Well, who's Aries? Aries is the god of war and death and sacrifice. If people ever think about this stuff, or they just let people tell them what to think, and that's just, I don't know.